Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, in so many forms of art, there's nothing more important than setting a truly good tableau. And you know, if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go on a limb and assume that you do, but, you know, subscribe because you're here. But subscribe, please. We really need it. Hit that subscribe button, give us the old 5-star rating on your podcast provider of choice. We're available pretty much everywhere. Places like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we'd absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on the social media. We're on the Facebook, we're on the Twitter, we're on the Instagram, we're on the Letterboxd, we're on the TikTok, and we're probably on a few other places too, at In the Seats, for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because guess what? If we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it even more when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So do us that kindness and pay us a visit. On this episode, we got a fun one. We are diving into the world of a little bit of television, but also diving behind the scenes because, you know, the Emmys are coming up eventually. I know with the strike and all that, things have been postponed and things are, you know, God knows what's going on, but there's so many behind the scenes folks who work on so many of our favorite movies and shows that have been getting nominated and doing such great work. And as we always like to do here, we dive a little bit into sort of, you know, things we take for granted probably, especially when we're watching a show or a movie. Something like a really good opening title credit, like an opening title sequence, you know, something that hooks us in, that gets us, that we absolutely love. And I mean, we had the unique pleasure of sitting down and talking with someone who, well, does that for a living, quite frankly. I mean, it's, you know, it's what he does. And it's, the guy's name is one and only Ronnie Koff. And he was the designer and developer for the opening title sequence for the show Hello Tomorrow, which is available on Apple TV Plus, and he's the creative director on that show. He did that, and he is an Emmy nominee for the show for Outstanding Main Title Design, and between you and me, he does a damn good job. But we had the chance of sitting down and talking with him just about the job, and I mean, because, you know, as a film person, I'll admit, when I think of opening credits, I go to somebody like Saul Bass, and it's just sort of understanding, you know, how these things get done and how these things get developed. And we had a fantastic talk with Ronnie. But I mean, if you haven't, and plus, if you haven't already checked out the show, check out Hello Tomorrow on Apple TV Plus, because quite frankly, it's a really fun show. But first, enjoy our talk with Ronnie Koff, because quite frankly, it's a good one. And again, there are so many craftspeople and so many artists who are working on so many of these shows that, you know, please support them in any way they can as the strike goes on. And we desperately hope that our actors can get paid and our writers can get paid, and everyone can go back to work, because at the end of the day, that's all anybody really wants to do. So check out Hello Tomorrow on Apple TV Plus. But first, enjoy our talk with the creative director, who is Emmy nominated for Outstanding Main Title Design, the one and only Ronnie Koff, because it's a darn good conversation. I enjoyed it, and I hope you do too. Well, hey, Ronnie. I mean, obviously, first off, man, just thank you so much for the time today. I appreciate this.
Thank you.
Now, I mean, I gotta ask, because I mean, I'm admittedly curious, because when I hear of, you know, people who work in specifically title design, the first name that comes to my mind is obviously somebody like Saul Bass. So, I mean, I'm kind of curious, how has the technology or sort of the way we design opening credits changed, or has it even?
I mean, Saul Bass is a legend. He knew how to reduce images to a very simple form and convey a lot of storytelling and structure to it. Um, I kind of use a lot of his thinking in my thinking in terms of just kind of reducing down ideas.
Yeah.
And technology changes, and renders look significantly better and more interesting, but you still need to reduce down those ideas in a way that makes it feel emotional, accessible, and impactful. So some things change and some things never change.
Oh, okay. All right, fair enough. No, I mean, I'm curious because obviously on something like Hello Tomorrow, I mean, the show is absolutely great. I mean, and your sequence is just fantastic.
Thank you.
But I mean, I'm curious, like, especially on something like this, it feels like, you have a very big canvas to play with. Like, how do you sort of whittle down to sort of the what you need and what you want to sort of put on and sort of convey the spirit of the show?
Um, so generally, when I design title sequences, I really want to come up with a visual system that really is simple and something that you could really, it doesn't get in the way. And with Hello Tomorrow, we had one camera move and it was a timeline, and all of the activities happened around the camera. And it was all about choreography and really conveying a sense of a timeline and the race to the moon. So by simplifying the kind of camera work, you really kind of are able to emphasize the individual story beats and the actions that go along with them. So I think what Hello Tomorrow did, like, pretty well, was it had a different way of delivering the individual products and the
Right,
ideas.
right.
But it also kind of represented this change in their timeline. It starts with kind of 50s technology, but then it shows you how the alternate kind of version of the universe evolves, and there's it has this a futuristic kind of a vibe mixed into the universe that kind of never happened in our universe, but happens in the show. So you see the timeline evolve as you kind of rise up with the camera, and then getting to the title at the end and the paper moon at the very top. The flat, I don't know if you noticed, but the flat moon at the end that's dangling was kind of a reference to this. Is this whole thing a sham, or is this real?
I did pick up on that. I like that. It was a really nice touch. But I'm
Yeah.
kind of curious on a job like this, or even just in general when you're crafting sort of these title designs. Like, do you get brought in early on in the process, or is it a question of here's the show, you've got 3 weeks, give us something?
Um, so we're brought in later in the process, uh, but the beauty about it is you get to pitch these ideas to the showrunners, and they get to tell you if they love it or if they hate it. But it's your idea, and you get to present something you love, and hopefully they'll love it too. And this was one of those things where it was an idea that I was kind of brainstorming and pushing around elements and ideas. And in the pitch process, I presented 4 ideas in total. A couple of them had a Saul Bass vibe, a kind of graphic vibe, and this one was more kind of photorealistic and more about the inventions in the show. Um, and they really just, like, the images that I presented this long vertical image that just had all of these contraptions, and it was all connected, and it felt like a machine, but it also had those spiral parts on it that made it feel like almost like a trance that you were
Right.
in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it kind of alluded to the trends of consumerism at the time, and the effect that marketing had on people. It was a spell.
Yeah, totally.
Um, and so we presented this one image, and they were struck by it. And I remember in the meeting they asked me, they said, "Well, love these ideas. Which one do you want to make?" And I just said that one because it was just different. And being different is a big deal right now, because there's a lot of stuff out there. And a key characteristic to a title sequence is cutting through.
Well, and I mean that leads me into something else, because I mean I definitely find sometimes when I'm watching a show or I'm watching a movie, there are some where they're not putting any effort into the opening title sequence at all, and it's just kind of generic and dull and bland. Or then again, there's stuff like this. It seems like we've had a bit of a split. I'm kind of curious, what is it about sort of the creation of a title sequence from your perspective that gives sort of the material, sort of that extra layer of intrigue or that extra layer of creativity to really sort of allow audiences to get roped in even before the movie or the show has even really started?
It's interesting. I always see them as being an invitation into the show.
Yeah.
It gives the show credibility, in a way. Many of the larger shows have title sequences because
Yeah.
it just gives it a little more stature. But it also allows you to have a little bit of storytelling. Okay, what I love about what good title sequences do is they give you a little bit of a window into what you're going to see in the show. So, and you'll see that even in Hello Tomorrow. Each one is a little Easter egg as to what you're in for.
Sure.
And it's so fun when you're able to watch the series play out and then be like, oh, that makes sense now. This thing, oh, that's what that meant. So if you do it right with a title sequence, you're not just opening the show, but you're giving the audience something to respond to and connect with, and in a way they have a little bit of sense of nuggets or clues into the storytelling that everyone is always really looking for. Those little hidden ideas that give them some insight into the show.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, Ronnie, I'm curious, like, because obviously there isn't necessarily a title sequence design section in film school. Like, how did you sort of break into the business, and specifically in sort of the title design sort of aspect of it?
So I went to school for design. I'm really a graphic designer trained initially, and I took an interest in motion. A friend of mine moved out to California, and he only wanted to work at two places when he moved here. He wanted to work at, I think, UNCO and Imaginary Forces, and I followed him out here. And then I also loved Imaginary Forces. When Seven, came out, everyone was crazy about it.
Yeah.
I also thought it was amazing. And I went to school at a point where there wasn't a lot of motion going on. There was a transition going on where everyone started doing motion design, but in the beginning, there weren't many players in there. And so I started working at Imaginary Forces many years, 2004. I got to observe Karen and Michelle and all these brilliant creative directors work. And I just, hovered and annoyed at the same time, to just soak up whatever I could get from all these other directors. And they kind of, they also kind of understood this type of storytelling, but it is a different kind of language of storytelling. I was talking to Peter Frankfurt the other day, and he kind of described these as little poems. And
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, I do have the best job in the world, and it's because it's not marketing. I'm not trying to please everyone.
Right.
I'm trying to give people a little bit of extra, but with ideas at the same time. So it feels like it's healthy. It's not junk food design. And I feel like it really combines all of the best characteristics of storytelling, in my opinion, because I love design, and it's a way of kind of infusing story into design and making it having people see it, which is
Yeah,
a
totally.
great thing. As a graphic designer, when I started out, just getting visibility on some of the stuff you do is hard. With a title sequence, I have friends that feel like, oh, I saw that, it looks great, love that idea. It's nice to be present with your work.
No, I mean that dovetails into the next question. Like, I'm curious, was there a title sequence in a movie or a film that you saw in your younger days that had the light bulb go off for you and made you say, I want to do that?
God, at the time when I was in seven was a big deal. There was this title sequence that I love, and it's for the small movie called Wimbledon.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've seen it, but the title sequence literally is the type volleying back and forth, and it's so clever. And I remember seeing that, and I'm like, that's being smart, that's communication, that's really it's unique, it cuts through. It does all the things that I was looking for in storytelling. And that's the key, being clever. And so uh, even though that's super simple, and Hello Tomorrow has a more kind of CG and just kind of complication in the render. I always look at things through the lens of Wimbledon, just a clever idea.
I like that, man, because I mean it's true. I mean, the art of title design, I mean, you're saying something, but you're trying to say it as simply and as, directly as possible. And I mean, I definitely think you do that with this. And I mean, I love you bringing up Wimbledon. It took me a minute to remember that, but the minute you mentioned the volleying, I was like, oh, damn it. Yeah, that was it. But man, seriously, just, keep up the good work and keep doing different stuff, because I mean, again, at least to me as a fan, a great title sequence always adds to just, whatever I'm watching. And I mean, and especially with Hello Tomorrow, it's one of those things where I just got roped in from minute one.
Great. Yeah, I mean, that's the key. Like, you want the title sequence to grab people. And I think, I'm appreciative. Thank you for saying that.
Well, Ronnie, man, keep up the good work. We'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, thanks.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.